There's going to be times when there's like things like recessions, but there are also going to be times when there's significant increases in value. And that's what you're going for, right? And it's just like the stock market, right? There's ups and there's downs. But when you look at the average over a long period of time, the stock market averages, let's say 10% annualized, right? So that's what you're looking at. So real estate, there's those really great periods where there's huge upswings. There's some then downturns, and that's okay. But then again, the cash flow is really the key that helps you survive through all that.
Welcome to the Physicians and Properties Podcast, the show where we teach you how investing in real estate can give you the freedom to practice medicine and live life how you want.
Doctor!
Now, here's your host, Dr. 𝐓𝐢𝐦𝐻𝐿.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Physicians and Properties Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Dr. 𝐓𝐢𝐻𝐿, and I'm so grateful that you're taking the time to listen to another episode. I promise you, today's episode will not disappoint. This was such a cool moment for me, such a cool episode to have Leti and Kenji of Semi-Retired MD on the podcast. I have been a huge fan of them for years, and they have completely transformed so many lives and have created such an incredible economic wake through Semi-Retired MD. And it was amazing to get to hear from them in their journey. Leti and Kenji are board certified hospitalist physicians, real estate investors, podcasters at Doctors Building Wealth, bloggers at Semi-Retired MD, and co-authors of the book, Life on Your Terms, Why Doctors Use Real Estate Investments to Set Themselves Free and How You Can Too. They started investing together in small multifamily real estate in 2015 and have since grown their portfolio to over 175 units of long and short-term rentals that they own themselves across multiple states and are general partners on an additional 2,100 units. Through their courses, they have helped over 3,500 physicians and high-income professionals learn how to invest in real estate to achieve financial freedom and build lives they love. This was an absolutely incredible episode. Listen all the way through. Check out the links in the show notes because they give you free access to their Ignite Your Journey course. It's a $200 value and a fantastic course. This episode was jam-packed with value, a lot of great mindset tips, and can completely transform your life. So if it makes an impact on your life, if it makes an impact on your day, do us a favor, give us a 5-star rating and review, and share this with someone who could be impacted today. Thanks for what you do, and thanks for listening to the podcast. Let's get started. Leti and Kenji, welcome to the Physicians and Properties Podcast. I'm honored to have you guys on the podcast tonight. Thanks for joining me. How are things going?
Amazing.
Yeah, things are great.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Yeah, been so excited to have you on. I know we had a couple of scheduling conflicts. Thanks for staying up late. It's late here in Colorado, and thanks for working with the schedule and really excited to have you on. I know folks will get a lot of value.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, for folks who don't know who you are, which I feel like a lot of people who listen to this podcast do, if you don't, I'm really excited for them to get to know you. But do you mind telling people a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm 𝐶𝐶𝐶. I'm actually a family medicine trained as well and became a hospitalist. And Kenji is a hospitalist, but internal medicine trained. And, I think you're mostly interested in our real estate journey. So that started back in 2015 together. We read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and got very motivated to build another source of income outside of our day jobs. We were both working more than full time as doctors at that point and decided real estate was going to be our vehicle. Kenji actually had a lot of experience in real estate that he can talk about as well. And at that time, we were looking for a primary residence. We were newly married and we were saving up. We had been saving up for it. And we decided to put all of our money into real estate. So that's how we got started. We put all of we rented for many, many years, put all of our money into buying investment properties that would cash flow and actually get to financial freedom in 3 years, which was much faster than we thought.
Yeah, and I had actually started much earlier in 2001, and I grew up with a family that invested in real estate. My mom still actually owns some of the rental properties that she and my dad bought together, and they cash flow, and she's living off the income. So it was a good model for me to, and pretty much as soon as I could start investing, I invested. In 2001, I was working with McKinsey, which is a consulting company. I'd actually left medicine to go into management consulting, and I was actually working in Japan. I didn't have, anything to do with my money other than just to invest it. So I actually started investing and really actually investing long distance from Japan. And then from there, I just kept investing. The difference was the things that was investing back then were a lot of appreciation plays, land, a lot of expensive condos in expensive cities.
That didn't cash flow.
That didn't cash flow. And so one of the things that I had an opportunity to experience was the 2008 recession. And so investing through that recession was challenging to say the least. And especially if you don't have cash flowing properties. And that was the big lesson that we took to when we started investing together. That was a big lesson that we're like, okay, whatever we do, we have to make sure that we're buying for cash flow.
So we started together in 2012, and now it's 2026. We have over 175 doors that we personally own, and they're short-term rentals, long-term rentals. They're single-family homes, a lot of duplexes because that's how we started out, and up to I think 160 unit is our largest that we own part of. And then we've also syndicated about 2,100 doors at this point. So a lot of growth.
A lot of growth in a quick time frame. That's awesome. Kenji, I wanted to go back to, investing in 2001 and 2008 with the recession. It sounds like cash flow, learning about the protective nature of cash flow was something that you really learned during that time frame. What were some other lessons that you learned back in 2008 that you carried forward for your guys' real estate investing journey?
Yeah, another big one is risk mitigation, right? And so I think that it's so easy to get enthusiastic about an opportunity. And when I was investing in these properties in Florida, it was land, a lot of land, right? Waterfront, actually, beautiful. No houses on them, just land. And they were selling like crazy, and people from places like New York and California were going to Florida, sight unseen, buying these properties. And back then you could buy properties, no money down, and you didn't really have to, there was no income verification. If you saw the movie Big Short, it was literally just like that. No income verification. You could actually walk away with more money in your pocket. So no money down, but you'd actually get the seller to credit you some money, and then you would actually walk away with some money and you would end up with a property. And so bought a number of properties. Now, the upside was you'd buy a property for, let's say, $125,000, and 6 months later you could sell for $325,000. So you can make a quick $200,000 like it was nothing. And so we did that a number of times. But again, it's like that, if you just focus on the upsides, then that's what a lot of people do. They get really enthusiastic, they get excited. I actually now stop myself. If I'm too excited about something, I actually step back and go, wait, this is that same feeling, right? And one of the things that we teach and that we also personally incorporate in our own investing is to really make sure you think about the downsides as well. But it's not only that. You actually can't just stop there, because all investing has risk. All investing has downsides, right? And so you actually have to take it further, and you have to then think about, how do you mitigate the downsides, right? That's the key step in my mind, because again, all investing has risk. If you just focus at, okay, I'm not going to invest if there's downsides, then you're never going to invest in anything. The key is to then take that extra step and go, okay, how can I mitigate this downside? Is there a way for me to protect myself if the downside actually occurs? Or can I minimize the impact of that downside if the downside occurs?
Yeah, I think the other thing you should mention is, you had this raw land, which, by the way, raw land eats 3 meals a day. That was something that we learned from our mentor who was doing development projects and in the 80s lost $100 million, was in development projects. And he was just like, the raw land, if it's not cash flowing, it eats 3 meals a day because you have to pay out to support it. But you also had multifamily during that time. And so maybe you can talk about what you learned from that. Yeah.
So I think that during the recession, I actually did own an eight townhouse complex. And that was, again, amongst all the land that I had some expensive condos. But then I also did have this multifamily property in I would say a B, C area. It was actually close to Boeing in Seattle, or where all the factories are. So it was a good area. And that property actually did totally fine during the recession. In fact, I was actually able to even increase the rents during the recession, right? This is the worst real estate recession in history. And I was able to actually raise the rents. And I was also able to sell the property for more, like a year, like maybe about 18 months later, after increasing rents. I was actually able to sell the property for more than I bought it for. Again, this is during the recession.
That's awesome. That's like a built-in case study of, how two different sides of the coin. And I love that raw land that still eats 3 meals a day. That's great. I have a lot of friends who are flipping land. And so I hope they listen to that and at least consider the potential there and ramifications. Sounds like you guys got started investing together in 2012 and you're working, more than full-time medicine jobs at the time. Was there an aha moment, or was there a moment where you're like, hey, we got to get back in the real estate game. We got to get started building some passive income so we can have some freedom?
Sorry, I might have said that wrong. It was actually 2015 when we started together. And yeah, for you, was that just, how did that come up? I think it was just reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. And I was like, oh, real estate looks amazing because, Robert Kiyosaki's jogging in the neighborhood, seeing these little houses and buying them, and they cash flow. And I don't know that I really fully understood your background of experience with it until a point, honestly.
Yeah, I knew the power of real estate. Obviously, I had the example of my parents, and I did have some really good experiences as well, right? So I had some of the negative experiences. I wouldn't say negative experience, but a lot of learning opportunities, I should say. But I also saw the power of it, right? And that's the other thing, is that I can't ignore those deals where there was that rapid appreciation, right? And if you really think about it, between, let's say, 2016, 17 to 2021, I mean, there was a huge...
a lot of market appreciation, which is amazing for us.
I mean, people always say pretty much anybody could make money during that time, right? Because there was so much appreciation. And so, there can be really good times as well. And so I'd have to say that if you can kind of catch that, then you can do well. And I'm not talking about timing. You want to be consistently investing, but you have to also realize that, of course, there's downsides. There's going to be times when there's things like recessions, but there are also going to be times when there's significant increases in value. And that's what you're going for, right? And it's just like the stock market, right? There's ups and there's downs. But when you look at the average over a long period of time, the stock market averages, let's say 10%, annualized, right? So that's what you're looking at. So real estate, there's those really great periods where there's huge upswings. There's some then downturns, and that's okay. But then again, the cash flow is really the key that helps you survive through all that.
Yeah, when we first started, I mean, obviously Kenji had experience doing appreciation plays, right? Market appreciation. He had some experience with cash flow. But what we've kind of come to see is there's actually 6 ways that you make money in real estate. There's cash flow, obviously. There's tenants paying down your mortgage, which is something that actually really adds up. And we, a couple years into our journey, we're able to see our net worth growing really substantially just by having the tenants paying down our mortgages every single year. There's market appreciation, which we've talked about, but we didn't really understand the value of forced appreciation when we first started, which is taking a property, improving it, or increasing rents, increasing income, decreasing expenses, and then making that value of that property go up tremendously. We didn't fully understand that power. And I would say that that's actually what's added most to our net worth growth over the last, 9 years or whatever that we've been investing together. Immediate appreciation, getting a great deal, making money on day one, huge. And then tax benefits. So when we first started, he claimed real estate professional status the first year we did it, cut back to half time, continued to work full time. And that allowed us to pay zero in income tax. We did that for 7 years. So from 2015 all the way till when we moved to Puerto Rico in 2022, we didn't pay any income taxes in the US. We were buying like crazy. Every year we had to go buy a lot of properties. And so it was a little bit crazy for Kenji that, because he's CEO of our real estate portfolio, but that was powerful, right? Not to pay taxes for 7 years.
That is huge. Yeah, I just had a conversation with a physician today, and he's like, yeah, Alex, my biggest expense is taxes. Like, what the heck do I do? How do I get this tax burden down? And so we were talking a lot about that in the short-term rental loophole and a couple other investing strategies. But yeah, it's massive. And I think it's often overlooked. And I'm really glad that you also said the loan pay down with the tenants paying down, because I think that's something that gets overlooked. And especially as, that for longer periods of time and you're paying less interest and more principal, that is really significant. And so I do think that's something to at least consider when you're thinking about, okay, what actual return am I getting on this property and on this investment besides just the cash flow that's coming into the bank? There's a ton of other benefits. So thanks for hitting those 6 things.
Yeah, we were lucky enough that we started tracking our net worth when we started our real estate journey. So we can see our net worth at that time, and then we can see what it's done every single year. And I would highly encourage people to do this when they're starting their real estate investment journeys, is do the baseline, because what you'll find is, after a year, even if you buy 1 or 2 properties, you will, if you force appreciation, if you take advantage of the tax savings, all those pieces that I just described, your net worth can grow tremendously. And just watching that gives you more and more motivation to keep going. We track our net worth every quarter with a group of people. We look at each other's numbers and we talk about it and we see what each other are doing. And we talk about, what worked, what didn't work. And our CPA actually looks at our numbers and he's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to start investing in real estate. You can see those numbers. It makes such a difference to actually see the numbers. And also, I think a lot of people, sometimes we have moments where we're scared financially, right? You go back, you look at your net worth, it really can settle you because you're actually looking at real numbers. So instead of just guesstimating in your head what's going on. So I think it's a really valuable practice for everyone out there.
Yeah, that's great. I need to do that. I tend to only look at it when I'm working on a personal financial statement or once a year. And so I need to do that and track that. So I'm going to need to hold myself accountable to at least looking at it quarterly. Because you're right. I remember the last time I did it, I was like, holy cow, I can't believe how much net worth I've added in the last 6 months or the last year in between. So that's really cool. I wanted to pull on the string of accountability with folks and sharing net worth, because sometimes people get really uncomfortable about talking about money. How has that been for you guys in that accountability group where you guys are sharing your net worth each quarter and talking through what worked and what didn't? How's that been for you?
So we all of us are in the Tony Robbins world. So we all do Tony Robbins Mastermind. So I think that money is a normal conversation for all of us. And we very much subscribe to money as a tool. And it doesn't change who you are, but it gives you the opportunity to be more of who you are. So you get to use money for all the things that maybe you would love to do, but you don't have the money for at this moment. And so in our communities that we work in, and even, in our community, semi-retired MD, we create an atmosphere of money is not a bad thing, and really believe strongly that when this community has more money, just knowing how, doctors are very much about helping and giving. And I can't tell you, we have so many people in our communities do whys, what is their why? And it's always their family, it's their community. We even have students who are going and investing in communities out of state and giving a portion of their proceeds to the local community. Money is just a tool to help you be able to have greater impact in the way that you already are impacting. And so I don't think there's any drama at all in our little quarterly thing, but there is excitement because everything we see is an example of what's possible. And so we'll see our friends do different investments. We'll see the returns. We're like, oh, we should do some of that. That's what's fun.
Yeah, I think that it's important to maybe change your relationship with money. And I think there's a lot of scarcity when it comes to money, right? And there's maybe a lot of fear as well. A lot of this comes from our parents. And so I think it's if you change that relationship, and I do think that you could actually create a better situation where the money flows to you as opposed to you hold on to it. And I think that people maybe hold on to it too tight, and that makes it difficult for them to actually take the steps to invest, right? Because in order to invest, you have to actually move that money out of your accounts, right? You have to let go of that money. And the idea is, okay, go and make me money, right? And go grow, right? And then come back, right? And so you got to kind of create that flow. And I think that if you're holding too tight to it, if you're not open with other people about where you are, you're not realistic about where you are, then that can be a problem, right? And that's the reason why I think that it is a valuable exercise, getting yourself to the point where you don't mind sharing it. You're not embarrassed about it. You're not, it's just like you said, it's either a tool or it's just a thing or it's a piece of paper. It's just a way for you to go out and acquire things, right? Or do good things or help people.
Yeah. So Lynn Twist's book, The Soul of Money, is such a good book. I don't know if you've read it, Alexander.
I have not read it.
But she says every time you spend money, it's a vote of what you want to see more of in the world. So you spend your money on buying an apartment complex and you make it nice, right? You spend your money on having a contractor make it a nice housing for your tenants, right? That's more of what you want to see more in the world. You don't want to see slumlords who don't care about their tenants, right? You go out and you buy something beautiful. That's a vote for seeing something more, more beautiful things in the world. And so when you start to see money like that, I think it takes away some of that emotional baggage. And I have to say, I was not raised in a place where money was discussed. I was not raised in a place, even now, my parents sometimes say stuff to me that, that is not helpful, right? But it doesn't mean that what you've been raised with is your future, right? The past does not determine the future. You can absolutely change your mindset around money and walk with not having embarrassment about that, even if all the people around you decide not to change. That's okay.
I love that. I think money is absolutely a tool, and it's also a magnifier of who you are. As you guys mentioned that already, like bad people are going to find ways to make money. Like they just will. But good people who make lots of money are going to make such a huge difference in the world and have such a huge economic wake behind them to bring others along with them. And so I completely agree. And I love that. And I think, that's how we feel about assisted living is like, hey, like we want to tell everyone that we can about residential assisted living and build as many as we can and house as many residents as we can, because that's going to get the seniors the care that they deserve and that they really need. And so it's a lot though. And I think about, I grew up, my family did not have much money at all. We were, often worried about like, hey, how are the bills going to get paid? And I could see that stress and experience that stress in my household. And I always told myself I was never going to put my family in that situation. And I'm really fortunate and grateful that we haven't. But I do notice there's tons of times where I'm like still clinging to money. I'm like, hey, Alex, like you just got to let this go, man. Like it's time to invest in this other deal or give this money away or do something awesome with it. So it's definitely a journey and something that I've been working through as well. I am also a big fan of Tony Robbins. So, and I think you guys are platinum members of Tony Robbins, correct? And I do know that's quite a substantial price tag. And I think important to hit on just the power of masterminds and what you guys have learned from being in rooms with the right people. And you mentioned it earlier with the fact of like being in the community and sharing net worth shows you that it's possible. I can't imagine being at a Tony Robbins Platinum event and leaving thinking that anything is not possible because it just has to be such an amazing community. So what's that journey been like for you guys with Tony Robbins?
Okay, well, first of all, we're super fans. We love it. So we've been doing it since 2019. And I have to say the money we spent on it was the best money we've ever spent, really, truly, because in spending the money, we showed up differently. That's really the honest truth. So when we went to our first event, we both signed up for Platinum. So it was $85,000 for me. It was $65,000 for him. And then, the private events are additional on top of that. And then we had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old and an au pair. And we committed to going to one event a month for a year. So the travel was also, substantial. And so in signing up for that, though, it grew our business tremendously because we showed up differently. We were hungry. We learned everything that we could. And we took action in a way we hadn't before. So we actually started SRMD in 2018 and hadn't monetized it at all. We were just doing it for free and adding value. And in 2019, we actually created our first course. And it was really successful right out of the gate because of a lot of the things that we learned in our community and Tony Robbins and just learning how to build a team and all these things, how to add value, more value than anyone else. All those pieces kind of came together. And Semi-Retired MD was a multi-million-dollar business the next year. That can tell you the power of Mastermind. Of course, being around people who are dreaming bigger, getting rid of some of your limiting beliefs and knowing what's possible for you, but spending the money on it and just committing that you're going to take action. It's really, really powerful in itself because you show up differently.
Yeah. So people say the transformation's in the transaction, right? Yes. And so I think it's true. And as Leti said, we've continued to invest in every year. Right?
And every year we're in at least Tony Robbins Mastermind. Oftentimes I'm in 2.
Right. And what's amazing about it is, and it's hard to really describe what it is to somebody who has never experienced it, but it really touches on all aspects of life, right? It touches on your business. It touches on your personal relationships, your intimate relationships, even your relationship, your parenting, your relationship with your parents, any damaged relationship you might have with a friend or something like that. Any of these, it's really, truly an incredible, it's an experience, right? And it touches all aspects of your life. And if I were to kind of like sum up, for me, the greatest impact is, it really is, if there's something out there that you really want to do, then there's oftentimes for people, there's things that are holding them back. And what this will do is it will transform your mindset to a point where you could go out and you could achieve these things that you may never have thought was possible initially. And that first step is really that belief that it's possible for you, right? And that's something that you learn, right? You learn that, okay, and part of it is seeing what other people are doing. That's important.
And that's
right?
why this podcast is important, right? You hear from other people that are doing things and you see what's possible for you.
Right. Right. And then, but some of it also, somebody has to have the belief, right, that you can run the 4-minute mile, right? Roger Bannister had the belief that he could run it for a 4-minute mile when nobody else thought it was possible. So sometimes you are first, and you are the first to believe that, we can colonize Mars, right? So somebody has that belief and then goes out and does it, right? And that's the key here, is that whatever it is that you want to do, it all starts with a belief that you could do it. And if you crack open that door a little bit, then you start to see all the possibilities. Then you also start to see how it can be possible. And the other important part about Platinum is that a lot of these things are not how can I do it, but a who can help me do it, right? If I think about it, it truly is a who, and that really was what actually helped us grow our business, was a lot of who's, right? A lot of different people. Tony, of course, was one of the who's, but a lot of who's who helped us along the way. And
a lot of the physician bloggers really helped us, Peter, Bonnie, and Sunny, they helped us right in the very beginning. They were our affiliates for our course, and they had a much bigger following than us. So just that those relationships were so powerful in helping our business grow. And so it really is oftentimes a who that helps you grow your business.
And that's why it's so important to surround yourself with a lot of those who's, right? And that's what I think the Platinum Partnership did for us.
Yeah. And that's, I think, what all of us are doing is in getting in community. It's really important to get into community. We actually have been taking people from our community there every single year for the last couple of years. We had 300 people join us last year. And they've actually allowed me to take my friends and family discount and give it to anyone in our community for Unleash the Power Within in October. So anyone here is, welcome to join as well, because we don't make anything out of it. It's just like you buy your tickets through Tony Robbins, but they give you the friends and family discount, which is really substantial. And they rope off a section for us. So, and then they're going to open up like an early registration for us too, because there's so many of us, and it's really a powerful experience to go and meet other docs and meet members of the community who are going through this mindset shift, because then everyone goes back to the hospitals and the clinics, and they are different people, and they bring a level of energy and a level of possibility and some optimism, and it like changes healthcare. At least this is what we believe. So this is why we do it every single year, is, we want to help change the culture of medicine, to empower doctors, to empower staff, to have that mindset of anything is possible. And then they will go create the change, because the community is an amazing community of powerful people who are driven, and they will do incredible things.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm actually reading Awaken the Giant Within. It's sitting on my nightstand right now. I've been reading it every night, and it's been awesome to read. And I've been listening to more Tony Robbins stuff. And one of my really good friends, Brian Lubin, he hosts the Action Academy podcast. He's also Platinum. And he's all about it. He's like, dude, this is just the absolutely most amazing thing and the best investment I ever made. And it's wild when you sit back and you think about like, hey, like that's like a half a year salary for an Air Force family med doc. But then you guys are saying like, look, then our business became a multimillion-dollar business so much faster. And I think that's what folks kind of have that disconnect of like, hey, you have to pay to play and seek to serve. And if you're willing to do that, you're going to reach your potential so much faster, and then go way beyond. And that's something that I'm learning, because like I said, a little bit of that scarcity mindset. So it's like, oh, do I really want to pay for that event? I've never regretted joining a mastermind or paying for an event or getting in the room with the right people. And it's always elevated me so much more. And so I think if folks are sitting here and they're on the fence about the UPW, event in October, you should take the leap and do it. I'm going to take a look at my schedule and see when it is. I'd love to go too.
Yeah. It would be so great. We have so much. It's really a phenomenal experience to be there together.
That's awesome. Yeah, that would be so cool. And I think, and I'm sure you guys have seen it. I know I have too. Like once folks realize that passive income or some degree of financial freedom, it gives you that freedom to like practice medicine how you want to, but it also makes you such a better doctor. Like you don't have that stress of like, I have to see more and more patients and I have to bill more and more. Or I have to, like, you have a little bit of flexibility. And I think a lot of times it's a struggle between like, oh, I want to get that overnight. Well, it definitely takes some work, but like, just think about how cool it would be if you could just take a Friday off every week, and then Thursday and Friday, and then, and just go from there. And so I don't want folks to listen to us and get discouraged and think like, oh, I have to figure out a way to go from full-time to not working at all. there's steps along the way, and each step of that can be super valuable and learn a lot while you're going.
Yeah, I wanted to say for those listening who are maybe struggling, or maybe you're having burnout, or maybe you're just kind of like, you just need a change. You feel like you need a change. Just like you said, you don't have to have achieved financial freedom, even a degree of financial freedom. I think all that you really need is a compelling future, and which is what a lot of people get out of the program is they realize, wait, there's so much more out there, and they get excited about the fact that there's so much more out there. Of course, they haven't changed their job or anything like that, but it's the possibility, right, that they get excited about. And even people who go through our course and they learn how to invest in real estate, they haven't necessarily gone out and bought a property yet, but they now have the knowledge and some confidence. Oh, well, maybe I can actually go out and buy some rental properties, a short-term rental, shelter some income, bring in some passive income. And it's just that possibility changes things for them. Again, even if they hadn't bought a property, that's what's amazing. And that's why I just wanted to kind of share with the people who are listening I really think that's really all you need in order to start shifting from where you are right now. If you're feeling that burnout, if you're feeling really down about your work or where you are in life, then that little bit of shift, right, I think can make a huge difference. And you don't have to have replaced your income.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think about if you picture a plane flying across the United States and they have their coordinates, like if they just make one little shift, they're going to end up in just a completely different location. And I think it's the same way with our lives. And we just have to be willing to make that little shift and have that little bit of a mindset change. And who knows where you're going to end up. And it's going to be absolutely incredible. And I think that vision piece and building out, what do you want your future life to look like, or taking the time to build out your vivid vision, that great book by Cameron Herold, and see hey, where do I want to be in 3 years? Where do I want to be in 5 years? And really dream about what that is. That's been huge for me. If I'm being honest with folks listening and honest with you guys, I would say probably 3.5 or 4 years ago, I went to the first real estate retreat or mastermind event I'd ever been to. And it was with some amazing folks. Craig Klopp was there from Bigger Pockets, Dave Perret from Military to Millionaire, some awesome people. And I remember thinking one, I shouldn't even be in this room. So I had that imposter syndrome. And then two, anytime someone came to talk about mindset, I was like, this is dumb. Just show me how I can buy a rental property and start making some passive income, And thinking, and now 3.5, 4 years from now, I'm like, man, the mindset is everything. That is the most important thing. We're all doctors. We're all smart. We can all figure out how to invest in real estate, especially in a great course and community, and have that accountability. We can all figure that out. But if your mindset's not big enough, if your dream's not big enough, you're just holding yourself back.
Yeah. That's why we invest the way we do in our mindsets every single year.
And one thing we realize is that the more you aspire to do, the more you go out and do, the more you challenge yourself, the kind of the limiting beliefs and the things that hold you back, they're still there. And
just different ones.
It's just different ones. Yeah. So you're constantly working on it. And that's why we're constantly investing in our mindset.
Yeah. And so, it's not just money, it's time, right? It's almost every single month we go to an event. A lot of our time is spent this way, but it has had such a positive impact on who we are and how we run our businesses and our family and our relationship. It's worth every single penny, multiple times over.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. How did semi-retired MD come to be and come to be what it is now?
Well, we started it as a blog because when I was working half-time, Kenji was moonlighting. Everyone was like, what? How did you guys do this? What are you doing? People got curious at that point. And so we started telling people about it. We were so passionate about it, as you can imagine, because it had changed our lives so dramatically. So we started doing a lot of meals with people. We tried to teach them everything that we could. And we had an investor agent that we were just sending everybody to. And we saw that a lot of people didn't take action. It was actually really surprising. But what it was is they didn't have the confidence to take action. They didn't have all the pieces. They didn't have the structure. They didn't have, the team. They were never in a position that they had enough certainty that they could take that step forward into taking action. And so what we saw was very, very few people took action. And so we were blogging, like I mentioned, for well over a year, actually.
Starting in 2018 and then, for a year.
We were blogging. And then in 2019, luckily, we, got into this community with Peter Kim and Bonnie Koo and Sunny Smith and got to learn what they were doing. And I remember Bonnie took Amy Porterfield's course.
Oh, Amy's awesome.
On how to build courses. Actually, I'm in Amy Porterfield's mastermind right now, just to give you a full circle of like how many masterminds we do. Awesome. And she's like, I'm building a course. And we're like, oh, we should build a course too. Like literally, this is why you are the average of the 5 people you're around, because she's doing it. And we're like, oh, we'll do that too.
Well, it started out with coaching because we met with Sunny first, right?
Right. So we were like, okay, we'll start coaching. Yeah. And then Bonnie was like, oh, I'm building a course. And we're like, oh, we'll build a course. And then Peter built a course. And then so then all of us did it together, and it was really fun. And like I mentioned, our first course, when we launched it, we didn't have a huge email list. We didn't have a huge following, but, our friends supported us. They were our affiliates. And so it was really exciting. We were able to get in front of their community, and that really led SRMD to really grow. I do think that our course is extremely well organized and just makes sense for people's minds. And then we really build a community that is, abundance and generosity and kindness to each other. And it's not a place where people pull each other down. It's where a place where people lift each other up. And I think that combination of, good material and content and proven strategy, right, based on our experience of now over 35 years together, but also the community of people who we have attracted, who have then gone out and take action and then contribute to the community with all their learning, because they're creative and they're trying new things and they're bringing it back to the community. Ultimately, that's what's caused this business to grow the size it has.
I think, we continue to teach it because we love it, right? And so we love to teach, and we love teaching the course and helping people get started, right? From knowing nothing to feeling really confident, right? That mindset we talked about, right? So,
number one in the course, actually.
It is. It's in the first week, but we don't, when people take our course, they don't quite realize. And we don't talk about it as much in when we're kind of talking about the course and selling the course. But once you get into it, you realize you get hit with this, and a lot of it actually is very natural, because we start to go, okay, what are your goals, right? And they start to set these goals, and a lot of them will set smaller goals. What's realistic? And we go, no. Don't set a realistic goal. What is it that you really want, right? Because why set the realistic goal? Because the realistic goal is based on the amount of money they have in their bank account to invest in real estate,
and what they think is possible,
and what they think is possible for them, right? And so what we do is we share examples of what other people are doing, and they start to go, okay, maybe actually I can dream even bigger, right? And then the limiting beliefs start creeping in, because once they start dreaming bigger, they go, well, how am I going to do that, right? And that's the reason why all that happens. And so it unfolds really beautifully in the course, and by the end, I think people realize. Maybe not in the beginning. They don't they say, oh, what is this mindset stuff? By then they get it. They're like, okay, I got it.
And I think if when we talk to alumni, it's like 9 out of 10. You're like, what was the biggest value of the course? Oh, the mindset.
Right.
Because we get it. They absolutely get it by then.
It's not a real estate course. It's a mindset course.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, hopefully folks listening to this really have learned mindset's so important. Save the time of the couple years it took me to realize the importance of that. Hearing it right now too, it just reinforcing that is awesome. What are some, if you have some top of mind, what are some wins that members have had in the course, or what are some folks that stick out in terms of what they've been able to achieve after doing the Zero to Freedom course with you guys?
That's a good question. Yeah. Wow.
Gosh, we have people, who buy a couple short-term rentals and it changes their lives. We have people who have well over 200 units now in our community. We have people who have raised for over 2,000 units, because we have a mastermind where we teach people to buy any property of any size. And part of that is teaching them to fundraise. So it's a wide range of numbers, but what really, and saving 6-figure in taxes is very regular in our community, because they're doing short-term rentals, or they're doing real estate professional, or they're doing medical office buildings as well, which is cool because, right, that's a dying breed of people, owning their own practices. But I feel like more and more in our community, people go out and own their own practices. They're entrepreneurial now, and they know how to buy real estate. They can buy the building and they can shelter their practice income. So that's really cool too. I love seeing the people get the mindset shift and getting the transformation of doing what they want in their lives. Mm-hmm. It's I don't have to work weekend call anymore. It's the last year. So we've been doing this program called Boundless Life, which is really fun for people with kids 12 and under. And it's they have all these sites across the country, across the world, where you get to go and your kids can go to school, and they have an English speaking school. It's in the Finnish school system, structure. And they give you an apartment and they give you a co-working space. And it's all entrepreneurial families. And so we've been doing summers with that program in Greece the last couple of years, and we're going to Spain this year. And then next year, we're actually scheduled to go to Uruguay, but they're talking about opening up Japan. So we're going to switch to Japan and we're going to go for 3 months, right? So it's such a cool program. But last year, God, I want to say that half the program was like all doctors from our community or our friends. And we were spending the month in Greece together. We were getting up, walking our kids to school. We were having 4-hour breakfasts. We would do a couple hours of work in the afternoons. We would go out to dinner. We'd be in the town square until like 9 or 10. We'd put it was amazing. And that's what's meaningful, is that time with your community, the relationships you form. Like that's actually, when you look at it, I mean, the Happiness Project, right, says that your longevity and your quality of life, your happiness is relationships. So it's transformation and relationships. That's the best part.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. I think that, people are focused on financial freedom, but time freedom is what I think ultimately people want. Of course, financial freedom gives you some of that, but some of this is really people just shifting, really starting to believe, oh, well, why am I signed up for that committee? Like, why am I spending my time doing that? Why am I doing that weekend call? Is there anything I can do to change that, right? Is there another group I can switch to, or maybe I can just cut back, right? And actually I can still do okay, right? And they realize, again, even without the real estate, it's more just the thinking about the possibilities and solving a problem, right? So they go, my goal is I want to free up some time. And that's the goal. And say, okay, how can I do that? I think what people get into a career, they stop realizing that they have all this possibility, right? And they actually have a lot of options. They actually probably have the upper hand in the negotiations. If they don't, they can always move somewhere else and create that type of situation. We know we have one doc who actually lives in a rural area because he has the complete upper hand. He has total control, and he can take as much time as he wants off because they can't find another doc to replace him. And so, but point is, again, is that you have choice, you have options, and it's just realizing that. And so again, we have plenty of people who are very successful, as Leti said, growing their portfolios or saving on taxes. But I think that's probably the biggest thing, is that the biggest win in my mind is that people are actually freeing themselves in terms of time and then spending
mindset. And transformation. Like it's really a beautiful thing to be able to.
Right.
That's so cool. Yeah. You guys have changed a lot of lives. And I think the cool thing, I kind of mentioned economic wake earlier, but the economic wake that you guys have created and just the ripple effect of that, like I mentioned before we started the podcast, I've talked to a bunch of folks who have done your course and they've absolutely loved it. And then that's led to them teaching their residents that they're teaching medical students about it. And like, it is just so cool to see that wave of freedom that's being created from you guys and from some other physicians in the space who are doing the same thing, and from the folks listening to this podcast. And like, that's what makes it so worth it. And that's why it's just an absolutely amazing opportunity that we have to teach more and more physicians that freedom's out there and it exists, and you don't have to suffer with the golden stethoscope or the golden handcuffs and just can't leave. Like, there are options for you to live that life that you really, really want. It's just going to take some time, take some effort, and take that mindset shift to transform and go from there. That is so cool. Well, I definitely want to look at Boundless Life. You got me intrigued there, because my wife and I were just talking the other day about how cool it would be to spend each summer abroad somewhere. But we were wondering about the school piece. And so that might have just solved the problem. So I'll have to pick your brain more about that after, which is really cool. Well, I want to be respectful of your guys' time. Is there anything else that you guys want to hit on? I know there was a recent mastermind that was just launched for female physicians who are crushing it. So feel free, tell folks how they can reach out to you, how they can learn more about the course or investing with you guys, and as well as your book, Life on Your Terms.
Oh yeah, our book. I forgot about that. Yeah, we wrote a book. Gosh, it must have been released about a year ago, called Life on Your Terms. And we wrote it as a fable. So it's a really fun, easy read. I love Patrick Lencioni books. I don't know if you've ever read any of them. They're all business books. They're so fun. So we wrote this as two couples, and one couple invested in real estate. One couple kind of does the traditional thing. And we wrote the story of what happens to them. And it's got a lot of mindset stuff in there, but it's got a lot of like real life applicable stuff about real estate as well, and how to build a portfolio. We run Semi-Retired MD, like you mentioned. We love teaching people about how to own their own rental properties, how to build their own source of income. It's really teaching people to fish so that they have those skills for a lifetime. And a lot of people pass them down to other generations, right, to their kids, and they're involved. And it's really an amazing thing. We run Fast Fire Capital, which is a offers passive investing opportunities because we know not everybody wants to own, their own rental properties. And then I recently launched Biara, which is to help female physician entrepreneurs build and scale their businesses. And that's just because actually female-led businesses are about 40% in the US, but only make 6% of the revenues and only get 2% of the VC funding. And I believe that if we have more successful female-led businesses, it will change the world in a really positive way. Just like if we have more physicians who have that mindset of anything is possible for me, it changes the culture of medicine, right? And so I'm really passionate about it. And yeah, we have our first offering, which is a mastermind, and it's called Biara is the place. So you can go biara.com.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you.
That is awesome. Yeah, you guys are doing lots of big things. It's been so cool to watch the journey unfold. So excited to see what happens next for you. Before we go, I had one last question. How do you guys balance it all? How do you balance the business, being great parents? How do you do it?
So we read The One Thing by Gary Keller very early on in our journey, and we love that book. And in there, he doesn't talk about balance. He talks about how life is always in imbalance. And so we were just sharing with you before we started is right now we're in California. My mom has cancer, and we are here for 2.5 weeks. And I would say our life is in imbalance by being with them, right? And
so completely focused on it, driving
every morning.
His mom every
No,
morning
my dad.
To the hospital, picking him up, and then just getting the house ready for her to come home. And so our complete focus is on her and her health, and that's why we're here. And so yes, like as Leti said, this is a period of imbalance, but this is our priority, right? And this is what we're choosing to do. And ultimately, we think that life is a series of these imbalances. You focus on what you need to focus on at the time, and we get a lot done as a result. And sometimes it's our kids, right? Focusing on their development. But at other times, we have good people in place to handle things. So we have a nanny who takes care of our kids. She also teaches them. So
they're homeschooled. So that means we have the freedom to travel 6 months a year. So we're setting up the systems and processes to be able, we created a vision for our lives, and we set up the systems and processes that allow us to be able to follow that vision. Again, another book, I know I brought up many books, but we read a lot, is Patrick Lencioni's book called Three Big Questions for a Frantic Family. And it's about running your family like a business, in that you have a culture for your family, you have priorities for your family, you have a rallying cry for your family. And, one of our family values is living a life outside of a box. So then we adhere to that family value. So we know we are hiring a nanny who's a teacher so that we don't have to put our kids in school and be stuck in one place. Right. And so it's completely in alignment with our family culture and the vision of what we have for our kids. So, and then I say the other thing is we believe in work-life integration. We work together, right? On all of these businesses, we go on walks and we're talking about the business, right? And so for a while, I know we felt like almost like guilt, like we had to separate. We were like supposed to go on walks and not talk about the business and whatever. But you know what? It makes us happy. It lights us up. It's fun to talk about it. It's fun to plan it. And so we involve our kids, they hear about it. If we go on a property tour and they're with us, they travel with us everywhere. And so they're getting a different experience of life. Now, are there downsides? Of course, there's upsides and downsides of any way you live your life, right? Our kids have probably less social interaction than they would have if they were in school. The upside is, they get to see the world and they're having all these unique experiences of different places. It's not to say that this is the best way to do it. You ultimately have to look at your values and you align your life with your values. And this is just what our values are right now and how we align it. And at some point, if it's not working, we change. Like that's the cool thing. You can always change your mind and you can always change what you're doing. So I think just understanding that our life will have periods of imbalance, that's the norm. And then work-life integration. And then I think all the mindset work we do. Right. That allows us to interact with each other the way that we interact with each other, because it makes things a lot better than they could be if we work together, on 3 different businesses and we're with each other 24 hours a day. Nobody's going away to work, right?
Yeah, I think a big part of all those things are absolutely pillars or important things that we incorporate. But I think another big part of it is that when you have imbalances, people oftentimes will beat themselves up, right? Or start to feel that guilty, right? Guilt is a big one, right? So So everybody has some type of emotional home, right? Guilt is an emotional home for a lot of people.
And it used to be mine.
Yeah, exactly.
It used to be mine.
Right. And so one of the keys with this work that we do, right? Why do we keep going to Tony Robbins events, or we have other masterminds, other teachers that we go to? It's not just Tony Robbins, because we want to, we're students, right? We're students of this stuff, and we also teach it. So we want to make sure that we are teaching people not just from one person, but many different teachers, right? And integrate all that. And so a big part of this, right, is making sure that, you're mindful of your thoughts, right? And you're also mindful of those emotions that they generate. And if you're feeling guilt, it's often triggered by some type of a thought. And this is all 𝐓𝐢𝐻𝐿, if anybody's interested in learning about 𝐓𝐢𝐻𝐿. But all these emotions that you're feeling, guilt or feeling frustrated or angry or whatever you're feeling, whatever your emotional home is due to a number of different thoughts. And so one of the things that we practice, and we're not perfect by any means, but this is why we keep doing it, because we're not perfect. We're always working on it, right? Is to make sure that our emotional home is in a really elevated, beautiful place, right? There's joy, happiness, calm, confidence, peace, right? Those really empowering emotions, right? Great energy, right? Like how many people feel tired, right? But we don't. Like we feel, most of the time, we feel truly energized, right?
Most of the time.
Most of the time we are super energized, and we're so excited about what we're doing. We're passionate about what we're doing. We love, like I said, teaching the course. It's people always ask us, you keep answering all the same questions like over and over again, even within the same course. Like, how do you do that? It's like, well, because, for the person who's asking the question, it's the first time for them asking the question, right? So they deserve an answer, right? That is as good as, the first time I answered it, right? Because it's the first time for them. And so that's kind of the passion, right? It's like we want to make sure that we're delivering that value. We want to make sure we have that impact. It energizes us, right? So anyway, my point is that these are the types of feelings that we want to generate within us. And that really requires a discipline, really working on your mindset on an ongoing basis, having some type of a daily practice where you're strengthening your mind, you're creating new thought patterns, empowering thought patterns. So these are the types of things that I think that we do to help us not feel those feelings of guilt or frustration or really feeling stressed about the time and those types of things.
As we used to.
Yeah, as much as we used to, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think just listening to you also, to kind of summarize it, it's purpose. We have a really clear purpose beyond ourselves. Right? It's contribution and it's continued growth, because we are always learning, always having, we call them learning opportunities. We are always making mistakes and falling down and picking ourselves up. And so that continued contribution beyond ourselves, a real strong why for what we're doing, and the growth piece of continued growth, that makes us very fulfilled. And so when you are fulfilled, you have a different energy. That's it.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I heard a quote once that was, you can't control your first thought, but you can control your second. And I love that. And I've been meditating on that and just thinking about it, because it's so true, and what that second thought is going to completely change your outcome, maybe for the rest of the day. And so really important to think through that. Gosh, wow, this has been so great. I could stay up and talk with you guys all night, but I want to be respectful of your time and really appreciate it. Definitely, folks, reach out to Leti and Kenji and semi-retired MD, and we'll have all the links in the show notes if you want to learn more. Gosh, it's been awesome hearing about your guys' journey. I can't wait to have you back, see where things go, and see what other spoke you have off the business in another year or two. So it's been fantastic.
Likewise, it's been really incredible spending time with you. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much. Well, with that, it's been Leti, Kenji, and Alex with another episode of the Physicians and Properties podcast, signing off. Hey, real quick, if you're still listening to this, I'm assuming you got value from it. So I need your help specifically. My 2-year vision with this podcast is to help 100,000 physicians learn how investing in real estate can give you the freedom to practice medicine and live life how you want. There are 2 main ways that a podcast grows. One is through ratings and reviews, and the other is word of mouth. If you can please leave me a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as well as send this to 1 to 2 friends that you think would get value from it, we can reach the physicians that we want to reach. Thanks in advance, and talk to you on the next episode. Please note that the information shared on this podcast is for informational purposes only. It should not be considered financial, medical advice. The views expressed on this podcast are those of the host and the guest and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of Defense or the United States Air Force.